Both Jenny and I started to run, ever looking back behind us as the plane seemed to come right above us. I couldn't help thinking as we ran for our lives that at least we had a chance of survival. What must have been going through the minds of men, women and children aboard that plane as it plummeted to the ground, being trapped in a tin can, unable to escape, merely awaiting one's death. The plane flew right over our heads and crashed a mile or so in front of us. We quickly ran to the plane, but it was too late. Flames engulfed it, and maybe it was for the best, as inside I could hear the screams of people as death was realized. I carried on filming the plane, quite why I'm not sure, as I am not a voyeur, but I felt it necessary, as I could not look now upon it, but later on I might need to. On the floor lay a man who had fallen out of the plane on impact. His body was crushed, and he was on the last moments of death. He was covered in blood. I could see his eyes staring up at me, but I was unsure whether they were alive or dead. Through the camera I felt an uneasiness, so I stopped and looked with my own eyes. I felt I owed him that at least. The flames of the plane kept burning till late, fueled by the bodies inside. Their terrible screams had ceased, and all now that was audible was the occasional crackle like that of a barbecue. Jenny and I stayed by the plane, ironically kept warm by the heat. "How can we continue to live like this?" said Jenny. I knew well what she meant. How we preyed upon the food of victims, kept warm as they burned slowly to ash, and yet we were forced to make this choice of life or death. Several times I felt sleep take me over, but each time I was awoken by the screams of passengers of that plane as they burnt alive. Those images kept haunting me. I would see the plane and imagine myself inside it. As the chaos began, as they sat normally in flight, and then suddenly something invisible, unknown came upon them, and their world was changed. Death was their best friend. The plane descending sharply, causing screams and mayhem. Panic as the passengers at the back started to cough out blood, their bodies full of unknown lesions, bodies combusting and sending the blood and infection further, body after body, whilst mother held their children close so they could not see this torture unfold, full well knowing death was the only option left, either by the invisible bacteria or the plane meeting its untimely destination, the sound of roaring engines, those that took their own lives, or the lives of their near and dear ones. Oh, dear God, set me free of these visions and sounds. I looked at Jenny as she closed her eyes to sleep. I didn't really know whether she was asleep or not, but it gave me comfort to think that she was able to sleep. I lay down beside her, facing her, as her hair would wisp on my face with a small breeze, and gazing at her, my mind found a distraction, and I gently fell to sleep. The morning awoke. The plane was black and charcoal, with half of the top burnt away. Jenny was already up and searching through the wreckage. I yawned and stood up, receiving yet another white flash. I looked towards Jenny and she looked back at me. No words were spoken. Everything was expressed within the eyes. I walked towards the plane and looked at the remains of the bodies, half burned, the head and shoulders missing, just the stomachs and legs remaining, the feet and knees burnt off too. Bones covered the plane floor. We both sat and watched the video footage of the plane as it was up in the air. "What do you think happened?" said Jenny. "See, at the back of the plane there." I forwarded the tape. Blood splattering and then again further up, as if something was happening, like the man in the bathroom who seemed to have combusted. "What do you think? A virus? Do you think it was a virus that killed them? Everything started when that fog came." "I think so. The plane must have been okay when it took off, and when it came within this city, then it started to dive and people breathed in the bacteria, and then it crashed." The tape came to the moment I dreaded seeing, the dead woman who fell out of the plane, her eyes looking straight to the lens before I moved the camera and switched it off. I pondered over what I had said to Jenny. Had it been some kind of virus or bacteria that had wiped out this city? But then I thought, what had happened to all the bodies? We only had found a few so far, and not everyone had died. We were both very much alive. Jenny took hold of my hand. At first I was taken aback by this gesture. I looked towards her sad, forlorn, big eyes as a tear rolled down her sweet face. I felt my heart melt and my soul sink as I gazed into her eyes. I felt as if I would fall into her deep eyes. They seemed so alive, and yet cried tears. I tightened my grip on her hand and tried my best to reassure her, but deep down I knew there was little reassurance. Our lives, whatever they had been in the past, were well and truly over, and all that awaited us was oblivion.